Hello, everyone. I'm Valerie Friedlander, and welcome to Mindset Unlimited mindset tips, tools, and inspiration for women in a time of change. I'm your host. I am a certified leadership coach, sociologist, mom, intersectional feminist, artist, and nerd. And today we are talking about creating change through joy for greater ease. And my guest is Heather Vickery. Welcome.
Hello.
I'm so excited to chat with you. I mean, we met ages ago.
Ages ago.
Ages.
Feels like several lifetimes ago at this point. Like,
Yeah,
oh.
yeah, yeah. So we've been in the same space, working on similar things, but very parallel. And
Yeah.
so I'm really excited about the opportunity to kind of look at some of these intersections. My focus this season is on mission-driven Chicago women. And so I'm going to read your bio for everybody so that they know a little bit about you.
Thanks.
Heather Vickery helps people go from pressure-filled lives to pleasurable ones so they can be successful with ease, holding more and feeling like they carry less. As a renowned transformation coach, certified human design guide, and board certified NLP practitioner, Heather leverages 2 decades of entrepreneurial and leadership experience to help women and queer folks lead from embodied joy. She helps clients unwire all the stories society has laid on them so they can lead authentically and love their life. As a respected author, keynote speaker, Broadway producer, and global podcast host, Heather champions everyday bravery and self empowerment worldwide. She's also the executive producer and co host of the award nominated podcast, Was It Chance, the show about taking intentional risk for creative success. So fun.
It's fun to hear that. I was like, wow, she could have shortened it, but no, it's really
No, see, I think the way we introduce ourselves or the way we talk about ourselves, it says something too,
Yeah.
but it's I hear you, like hearing ourselves like spoken about has a different resonance. I want to encourage everybody listening, do something like that. Like
Yeah.
write out something about yourself and then have somebody else speak it. Like write your accomplishments down. Write the things that you've done that like how somebody might introduce you and then actually listen to somebody do that because I think
Yeah.
that's a really powerful exercise.
Yeah. I think
So,
it's very cool. And there are, in my experience, from myself and with clients, there are kind of two reactions. One is like, wow, she sounds cool. I want to know her. Like, wait, that's me. And the other one is, oh my God, I can't believe I bragged about myself like that. I can't believe I said all those things about myself. What are people going to think of me?
yeah. Yeah. Well, and that has so many different layers to it
Yeah.
of the programming of how we're supposed like being humble, being
Yes.
demure,
Yeah.
right?
Can
I
I curse
feel
on your podcast, Valerie?
um
I won't if you don't want me to.
so I
I'll have to work at it, but I
I
won't do
love,
it.
I love that question. So it's so funny because I made it such that people don't like I don't really have cursing on the podcast.
No. It's because you don't
Mostly
talk to
just
me
because
enough.
that way I don't have to like mark the things that
Fair
say
enough.
that like people can't listen because I do have a lot of parents listen and I want them to be able to listen if their kids are around or
Okay.
feel comfortable doing
Okay.
that. And I don't know how many people actually care about that anymore. But then it also sets up this dynamic for myself where people, when I do curse, people are like, oh my
It's
gosh,
shocking.
Valerie, you cursed. I'm like, but I do
I know. I'm a
all
big
the
fan
time.
of the F word. I was just gonna say F that. Like F that being humble. Me and Kamal, like I am not aspiring to be humble.
Yeah.
But I have had that experience, and that's why I bring it up. Like hearing you read it, the first thought is, ew, gosh, I can't believe I'm bragging like this. It lasts like half a second, and then I'm like, that's ridiculous. This is cool. I sound so cool. Oh my god, that's actually me. But you have to train yourself to do that.
I absolutely, that's one of the things I was just thinking as you were saying that is because it's so deeply ingrained. Too often people beat themselves up over having that initial impulse, like, well, I shouldn't be ashamed of that, or I shouldn't be embarrassed. I shouldn't, and then and then you have
Yeah.
the programming with the layer of should on it,
And
which
then
makes
some
it like
shame, dash of shame on there. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
exactly. So I just thank you for normalizing that experience
Sure.
when you do have that reaction. And that actually leads me to one of the early questions that I like to ask is, what is a limit that you took for granted about yourself, about life, that you have since unlearned?
So by taking for granted, you mean it was just
Not
standard
question. You didn't
operating
question. It
procedure?
was like part of the water. You were a
Yeah.
fish, and it's
Yeah.
just part of the water.
Gosh, over the course of my 51 years, there have been a lot of them. I think probably the biggest one for me, which is maybe not completely on track, but is y- the American dream.
Mm.
The You're growing up as a little girl and you dream about getting married and it's going to be a special day and you're going to have this perfect husband and you're going to have these great kids and 2.5, all of that. And I did it and I didn't question anything. I
Mhm.
did know, I always knew I wanted to be a mom, and I am. I have four amazing kids. And it never occurred to me that there was a way to have them other than following that path that's set forth there. I just didn't question any of that. And then fast forward to 2013, I was 38. I had four kids. I hated my life. I hated myself. Couldn't figure out what was wrong. I had a business that was thriving. We had the prettiest house on the block. We had lots of resources, financial resources. And my then husband was a pretty nice guy. Like what's wrong with me? Oh, turns out I'm gay. Okay. What do I do with that information now? And I joke because people are like, how do you get to be 38 and not know it?
Mm.
And the answer to that is very similar to what I just said, was because the way society treat other women. Oh my God, she's so gorgeous. She's so hot. Oh my God, I love you. And we cuddle and we hold hands and we snuggle and like with our friends, right? I never realized that the way that felt inside my body was different than the way it would feel for a straight woman
Mm.
until I did. And then I'm like, oh, that's what that is. Okay. And I wasn't going to do anything about it because this was what I picked. I picked this path. And then several years later, we hit that moment in 2013 where I was like, this is not sustainable. I can't, I cannot live like this. Like, it was, if it didn't actually kill me, it was going to make me so insignificant in my life and in my children's lives that it might as well have.
Mm.
And so I did something about it, which felt very radical. I came out, I got a divorce, I closed a thriving business, I started a new one. Like, I just changed it all. And it doesn't mean every day is perfect now, but I don't fight that battle anymore.
Yeah, that's really powerful to say, I could keep going, but like so many people in relationships, for a variety of reasons, think they have to keep the relationship together, even though it's destroying them as individuals.
Yeah.
And so I just want to acknowledge
Yeah.
that you did that.
Thank you. I mean, it has been a minute since then, but
Yeah.
it's when you have children and you make a decision like that, it never really stops being a prominent factor. And so
Mhm.
then to, go back to what we talked about a second ago is I have had to really work with all of my tools and resources and everything that I do that you mentioned in the bio. I started it as a way to support myself. And then once I know it and I would not necessarily say mastered it, but I've really embodied it, then I bring it forward to support clients because I know that it works so well. Um, I have had to use all of those tools and resources daily to keep myself from going in a shame, blame, guilt spiral when my kids are challenged, when they're packing up their things to go back and forth from one house to the other, or when they're deciding who, the older ones who are out of the house, where are they going to sleep when they come home for a holiday? What if
Mhm.
it's not me? Sometimes it's not. Often it's not. Like, what do I want to make meaning of that? How do I want to manage that? And why that I think this matters, because I know this is a business focused podcast, is those feelings, those moments show up at work. And
Mhm.
how I feel about doing my work. Do I feel authentic doing my work? And I have personally chosen to take the approach of being super honest about it. Like, not every day is great. Not everything is easy, but I can move through it because I've got the resources to do that. And I can still find what works, what's good, what's joyful in it, even if that's not the only emotion that I'm experiencing.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and I think that the word authentic often gets used, and like, what does that
Yeah.
mean or look like? There are so many people who can't be radically honest when they show up to work. And like there's definitely a power and an I think those of us who can show up that way, to do that is important, to show that it's possible to do the things and be fully honest. What does authenticity mean to you?
Yeah. It's unfortunate that it's become an almost negative buzzword because
Hmm.
I think it's a great word and it's a power play. And for me, authenticity means you get me exactly as I am, no BS, and no filters, for better or for worse, right? So yes, I usually show up cursing. The book over my shoulder is the book I wrote, and it's got a curse word in the title. And I show up abundantly queer and supportive. And, just someone earlier today who's liberal and progressive like we are and all of that was talking about how of course it's a man, white man, not a straight white man, but a white man nonetheless.
Hmm.
um how frustrated he is that Democrats will just get rid of somebody who's been accused of sexual assault without having any facts. Okay, well, authentically I return with, you know what? I am tired of believing men and thinking women are lying. I now believe women and men have to prove that they're lying. I'm just going to switch that script, and I don't feel sorry about that. And I don't hide that from my work persona. So that's what
Hmm.
authenticity means for me. It also means my heart has to be in it. I have to be connected. But if you see me, if I'm in space with you, you are guaranteed to get that from me.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I will stay home. I would like to read a book instead of do something that feels inauthentic.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And I think that's really important personally in the work that we do, that
Yeah.
we're showing up open and honest, because then people know it kind of goes into that coaching agreement, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're having that kind of that groundwork. It creates the psychological safety of, who I am and what you're getting.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be putting on, now I might put on my coaching hat,
Sure.
right? Which
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily going to share all the thoughts that I have. The client is the focus,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm not going to be putting things on, putting on different personas.
Right. I'm not going to
Um,
surprise you with who I am in this
right.
space. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that you said that I was really curious about is you mentioned mastered versus embodied. Well, you didn't say versus, but you were like, I don't feel like I've necessarily mastered, but I've embodied it.
Yeah.
And that it has some ties, I think, to authenticity. And I'm curious what the difference between those two things are for you in a
Yeah.
professional context.
I think that's a great question. And I thought about it as I was saying it. I don't have a problem with saying I have mastered something if I have actually mastered it. I do believe, though, as humans, that we are always learning more and evolving. I'm not sure what mastery means per se. Although I have a program called the Mind Shift Mastery, but that's what I do, right? Like, we shift our mind, and that's what exactly what I mean by embodied, right? So, is there more I could learn because there's always more to learn? Yeah, that answer to that is yes, and I love learning. Catch me listing all of my certifications and all of the ones that I'm still gonna do.
We worked hard
Um,
for those. I mean, that's one of those things
so
that, like,
hard,
to
yeah,
say, I don't, the whole credentialing thing has some layers to it of,
it
of,
does.
our culture and, societal stuff. But, yes, and,
Yes, and yeah.
there's a lot of work that goes into those things too. So,
There is, but my point, I, it's funny because yes, you are completely right. There's a lot of cultural and societal pressure on that. And to be fair to myself, that has not been my motivation. I
Mhm.
have never gotten certified in anything because I felt like I needed to prove anything to anybody. I truly only ever did it for my own internal expansion. And then I went, how can I best support my clients with this? Like
Mhm.
when I got human design certified, I literally was, I had no idea. I saw it on Instagram, which I'm no longer on any of the meta platforms, but I used to be. And I saw this certification program and I knew, like my whole body knew, like, oh, I'm going to do this. And my brain was like, you're going to do what? No, you're not. You don't know anything about this. You don't have the time for this. You don't have the money for that, like all of it. And I'm like, nope, going to do it. Cool. Now I know my human design and I know what my drive was to do that. Um, so to answer that question, like I think there's always just more we can learn, and that's not a bad thing. I don't say that as in a you're not an expert. You can't put yourself out there. You can't sell your services or your products because you don't know enough. It just simply means that I do know enough to do that, but also there's more. Embodied means I have done this work so much that it's become second nature.
Mhm.
And while I might still have a limiting voice or a limiting thought or a limiting belief, I catch it and I decide I'm curious and not judgmental with it. I'm thinking that I'm feeling that. What do I want to do with that? Do I want to just immediately shift it because it's total BS? Do I want to explore it? Do I need to take myself through some of my own tools and resources? Do I just need to go for a walk? Like, what does that mean? For
Mhm.
me, that's the difference in mastery and embodiment. And people use the term mastery all the time, but
Well, that's what I love to kind of define things. Like, what do
yeah,
they mean? What do they mean to a person? And how do we label ourselves with those definitions? Or how might we be, I love the Princess Bride. You keep using that word. I don't
I
think
do
it
not,
means what you think
I
it
do
means.
not think that word means what you think it
But
means.
sometimes
Straight
that's
line.
sometimes it's
Yeah.
because somebody is actually misusing a word, but sometimes it's because we have different understandings of the experience. I think when you said that, for me, I often think about like what I have here. Like mastery is like I could recite this thing, or I can take the test on it. And, I
Yeah.
can do it. But embodied is like there's a sensation to it. It's like
Yes.
the difference between like I would say like auditory and visual and kinesthetic almost like to take it
Sure.
into
Yeah.
those.
I think for me it's both, but yes, absolutely. Um because there is, I would say I have mastered embodying this, meaning it's second nature to me.
Hmm.
Um but I do a lot of somatic stuff. Somatic is really important to me, and I think we have to know what things feel like in our body if we want to make really good aligned decisions that are best for us and not just best for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And having that understanding of this is like a response, this is an activation versus
Mm-hmm.
this is like I kind of differentiate, and I think there's a lot of we could probably go off on a tangent, but like the
We
difference
probably could.
between like your gut and your intuition. I think they can kind of be the same, but like I think of the gut as like that limbic system response. The automatic, like, there's a trigger there or something that I'm acting off of versus the intuition is almost like this deeper, like all the pieces of me are
Yeah.
lined up. And I sense it. And I mean, it's not easy. And I wouldn't say I have mastered
There
that.
you go. See? Yeah. And I will tell you that through my human design work, I now know that not everybody has a gut instinct. So if you're
Hmm.
listening to this and you're like, yeah, I that doesn't feel right to me, you may not have a gut instinct, but it doesn't mean you don't have intuition.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's the same thing because I just learned that there's an actual term for folks who can't vision.
Oh yeah,
Right? Because I've had some clients
me
who,
too.
visioning doesn't work for them because they can't see it.
Yep.
The idea of visioning is not there. And there is a word for it, and I don't remember what it is right now. But for those listening, if that is you, because most of the time they're like, well, it's just not something I
I
can
can't
do.
do
I don't know
it.
what's wrong with my
Yeah.
brain. And it's like, no, actually, there's a like this is a thing.
It's a real
Um,
thing. And
but that.
I think that's important, though, again, for people listening, because there's so many different types of ways we experience the world.
Mhm.
When I'm doing I have a program called the Glimmer Lab. We do live hypnosis, or, whenever I'm supporting people, if it's one on one, you can easily ask. When I ask you this, do you see a picture in your mind? Do you hear something? Do you smell something? Do you feel something in your body? We can do that. But if it's a group and we can't do that, I always make sure I cover those bases.
Mhm.
See what it looks like, hear what it sounds like, feel what it feels like. So hopefully something hits for someone, maybe because of the work that we've done as, for lack of a better term, activists, right? Like understanding that just because it's our way and works for us does not mean it works for everyone. And how can we be more inclusive with that?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And so that also brings me to one of the things that I think sometimes people talk about it, but not often do we like center it necessarily in the conversation. But this my focus this season is on mission-driven Chicago women. And
Yay,
so
Chicago women.
assuming that you have a mission, but so I do differentiate between the idea of a mission in like the work that I do versus a mission being like a focal point or a purposefulness. I'm
Yeah.
curious, one, what does being mission driven mean to you? And two, what does it look like for you?
Yeah. First of all, I want to acknowledge it's not necessarily the easiest question to answer for folks. Like, you got to do real work to have a clear concept of what your quote unquote mission is. And I don't have a soundbite down. So,
And I think it can evolve too. Like
yeah,
it's
it does. Yeah, I think that it
it's not a
does.
static thing. It's very
Um,
dynamic.
Professionally, but also like across the board, um, there's a role for everyone
Mhm.
in the world. And I'm going to kind of go back to this activism work because it relates to my work in this way. I'm probably not going to be the person locking arms and blocking protesters from ICE.
Mhm.
I'm not very strong. I'm not, it's not that I wouldn't. It's just that that's probably not what I'm going to sign up for. But what I will sign up for is giving emotional support to, and whatever kind of skill set support to I can, to the people who are doing that.
Mhm.
Right? Okay. So coming from that perspective, I have chosen to take on this mantle of joy, of being a joy warrior, of using joy as a form of resistance, a joy as a form of creating more ease in our life and more alignment in our life. And that often feels, in this very messy world that we live in, laughable. Like, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to sell you joy when people are being shot in the streets and people can't leave their homes. And then I get over myself and my ego and I go, no, folks, we need this work.
Mhm.
My work matters. And if one person that I support can shift all of these internal narratives that have kept them from really showing up for themselves and having what they want personally or professionally, and leading from more joy and choosing themselves and then modeling that behavior and shifting the way they show up. And part of it is when we approach from I call it leading from embodied joy, we're so much more creative in our problem solving. Now, this is neuroscience, right? So if you're focused on what's not working, you're going to get a whole lot of more of what's not working. And if you're focused on maybe what is working and what does feel good, you solve your problems easier. So, from a mission standpoint, I want to help people do that because it matters and because it's contagious and because people see it and they think, oh, maybe I'm not stuck here. Maybe it doesn't have to be like this. So, that is my mission, to be a joy warrior, because
Mhm.
it changes the world. And
Yeah.
you had another question, but I talked too long and I don't remember what it
No, well,
was.
what you said encompassed it. That's really
Okay, good.
because like what does that look like in your work? I mean, it's apparent. And um, I think about like what are we creating?
Yeah.
Right? Like if we
Yeah.
create from a I don't want this place, then we're not going to create it. It's going to be really hard because it's like trying to create behind you. Like,
Yeah, it
I want to
is. It
create this
really is.
world, this different world. Instead, it's like, burn it down. But then what? And
Then
so what's the
what?
point? And especially I think when you're building into something that we might not get to see.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yeah.
if we're trying to build a world that like we know it takes time to build something new, when we're thinking socially, sociologically, all these things, it takes time. It's generations of healing and building and creating. And so no, we probably aren't going to get to see that. How do you keep that sustainable is absolutely by finding the ways to
Yeah.
fuel the joy within
Yeah.
you. Otherwise, I mean, we talk about creating change for, and greater ease in that is, and it is ease. It's also sustainability. Like,
Absolutely. It's got to be sustainable. And my litmus test this year, 2026, and it kind of came to me through doing some somatic and NLP work with another practitioner. Um, I need to be excited
mm,
about whatever it is that I'm really committing myself to. And I found that I have been holding back in selling my stuff. I'm not on Meta, so I don't have Facebook and I don't have Instagram. Well, how do you do that? Like putting myself out there and finding ways to promote it. But the reason was because it felt too hard.
mm,
So I'm not an expert in all of that. I don't have unlimited financial resources on all of that. Problem solving that for me needed to be how can I simplify this so that it feels easy, because ease equals excitement and excitement equals me showing up joyfully. And that has been really my whole focus this year.
mm-hmm. What are if there are like a few things that you found that helped do that for you, what have they been?
Yeah. One of them I have this really gorgeous website. If any of you want to check it out, please do. But it's
Yeah, it's true.
detailed. I didn't build it, I had somebody help me build it. It has 5,000 pages. I do now have the skill set to add like a sales page or whatever, but I really don't want to. I really don't like it. And I also don't know that I think it's necessary. I think it continues to create the overwhelm community. We see somebody else's long detailed sales page, and by the time we get to the end they're like, I'm too tired to click buy now or whatever. So one of the things is I have really shifted to like just a checkout cart thing with some highlighted bullet points. This is for you if, this isn't for you if, here's how you say yes. um that just felt fun. Like just taking that component out was like, oh, that freed me a little bit. In person connection has been another one, since I'm not, again, on some of those larger social platforms. Shameless plug, I host a monthly networking breakfast called the Chicago Empower Breakfast. It's the second Friday of every month. One of these days we'll get you there, Valerie. I know you have a client that
No, the
day.
Fridays are a tricky time for
I
me.
know. I know. But since everybody is here is in Chicago, come and
Yes,
check it out.
definitely.
But so being in conscious community, being thoughtful about where I'm a projector in human design. For those of you in the know on human design, I do not have unlimited resources of energy. I'm very careful about where I put my time and energy and how much of it I am willing to give away. So finding in-person opportunities where I get my cup filled, where I can really engage. The Chicago Empower Breakfast does that for me, but I built it that way, right? Like I love it. We come in, it's high vibe, it's high touch, friendly, loving, inclusive. It's not a sales pitch. So that is one of them, but I will go to other in-person events. So any of you listening or any of these other guests, if you have something super cool in person that you think matches my vibe, you should send me an email. Let me know about it. So that helps too, because if I'm in a space where I feel safe and I'm excited, that I'm talking about my work and people get excited. And even if I just make friends who think about me, like this idea of being somebody that people talk about in rooms you're not in,
Mm-hmm.
to share and elevate, like I want to be that person. I think I am that person in a lot of cases, and I want to be with those types of people so that I can put their names they can come out of my mouth when I'm talking to you or somebody else and go, oh, you need to know so and so. You need to know Valerie because she's so, whatever it is, I want to be able to do that. And I want that to be reciprocal.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually you hit on one of the reasons why I decided to focus in on Chicago women is partly because of those opportunities. And I do have listeners who are not in Chicago. You should come visit.
You should come
Come
visit.
visit. And maybe that's in the future. I'll put a thing together so that folks can come visit. But that way we're meeting and connecting in real life
In
because I
real
do
life.
think that that is for me joy resides in connecting to other people, and I
Yeah.
know that like for folks who tend to and I have mixed feelings, not mixed feelings. I have feelings. They're not really mixed about the whole like introvert extrovert thing. I do think
Yeah.
that it's important to know like when you're spending energy and when you're refilling your energy, rejuvenating yourself and knowing kind of the spaces that those different experiences happen in and what your needs are, but to put yourself into a box can create connection in terms of like, oh, you get me, but it can also be a way of really
It
limiting
can, for
your
sure.
understanding of yourself and even your ability to notice what's
Yeah.
going on. And I think, there are lots of different spiritual understanding about like when people are gathered together,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
what that does, I think energetically and spiritually. I think joy,
It's
it's
powerful.
for me at least, and from what I have observed with a lot of other people, is that in those intentional spaces, that's where we can really connect with our joy and knowing, I'm a part of something. Belonging
Yeah.
is a core need, maybe the core need of us
Yeah.
biologically.
Yeah.
And so to feel like I'm a part of something in an expansive, creative way, then I don't have to do it all.
Yeah.
One, in
Yeah.
terms of like all
That's
the
huge.
things, what my part is in it. And
Yep.
I feel
There's a
connected.
job for everyone.
Exactly. So I love that you said that. And I was just like, oh, perfect. You just hit on exactly what I,
No, it's
I focused
great.
here.
Yeah. I mean, I also host retreats and I haven't announced a new one for 2027 yet because I'm still recovering from the one we did in January in Costa Rica. It was intense for those. Like, I loved it. I love leading communities. I love being in person. It's all of those things that you just said. However, I highly underestimated how physically and emotionally taxing it would be for me to hold an open container for 14 people for 7 days. And I came home and was out of commission for like a whole week. I thought I would get back to regular work. That was not happening. I was like, nope, reschedule everything. I still want to do this, but I learned a lot of lessons about how I can do it in a way that honors me and honors everybody else. But what was undeniable was the shift that happened because people were sharing collective in-person space together. And I always want to be a change agent like that because it is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, that goes back to that whole like if we label ourselves introvert, extrovert, if
Yeah.
we put ourselves in a box versus going, this is going to take a lot of energy. And I know that, but I also know that it's worth doing.
Yes.
And I know that these are the things that I need to do to create support for myself so that I can do this extra energy give or whatever
Absolutely.
that looks like.
Yeah. Because I do know now for me, retreats are going to be maximum 10 people
Mhm.
and probably 4 to 5 nights instead of 7. Um, because then I can take 2 nights on the front end and 2 nights on the back end for, getting myself prepped, relaxing, all of those things so that I can be fully available and functional for all the people who need me in all the ways and places,
Mhm. Mhm.
including myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I would love to know what do you hope that people would take away from listening to this conversation?
I would hope that if you're listening to this, you take away the knowledge that just because things are challenging or difficult doesn't mean that you should ignore joy, um, I promise you, you will get through the challenging moments easier if you also allow yourself to experience joy. And sometimes that shows up in really unexpected ways, but we have to be looking for it. We have to be ready for it because what you focus on grows. And I guess that's the takeaway, right? Like what you focus on grows. And I am not in the toxic positivity business, right? I am not in ignoring your feelings or ignoring what's happening. But I do know for a fact that lots of things can be true at once. And if you can allow joy to be something true for you, your life is going to feel better. It just
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just to tie into that, the what we've already talked about is change often includes grief,
Often. So
and
often.
grief and joy can go together.
Yes.
You can totally have both of those things at the
You
same
can and
time.
probably do. Because I have
Probably
joy
do.
at being alone. I love to be alone. I have 4 kids. I love to be alone. Um, and I miss them desperately when they're not with me. And I have a lot of grief that even though I chose what was right for me, that my choice led to us not being together all the time.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think of joy as being something that can be all-encompassing
Yeah,
of all of the things.
all of the things.
And so yeah, so I hope people find something, what do you need to take off? What do you need to um release to access joy? What would help inviting in
Yeah.
to access more joy? And then, so to wrap up, I like to ask first, what does it mean to you to be unlimited?
Mm. Oh gosh, why everything feels like a big question today?
I ask big questions sometimes.
It's a big question. It For me, being unlimited feels like this is going to sound so woo. It feels like trusting the process. It feels like knowing that I don't have to know how to trust that everything will work out just right for me because it always has. If I'm honest, and it might have taken some time, it always has. And so being unlimited means don't limit myself to thinking that it's going to be, it's got to be done like this or it has to be like that or it doesn't count.
Hmm.
I'm open to abundance and joy in every single way it wants to present itself to me.
Hmm. Yeah. And when you want to invite in that feeling, what song do you listen to?
I'm so glad you asked me that. It's Aperture by Harry Styles, the newest single released from Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally.
Okay.
It's on
Well,
repeat all the time.
so if for those of you who may be new here, I have a playlist. It is available. I think I put it on Apple as well now, but on Spotify, where every guest I've asked this question
I love
since the
this.
start of this podcast. So there's a whole, and it is so varied. It is one of you want like a whole mix of different feelings and but every one of them are things that my guests have said this is what I'm listening to that bring
I
this
love
feeling of
that.
expansion and unlimitedness. So check
That's
it out.
awesome. Yes.
Thank you, Heather, so much for joining me today. I really have appreciated you.
Oh, it was so much fun. Thanks for having me.